Hey, everybody, welcome back. Craig Shoup here with Bob Garver, our New York City film critic. And if Bob is here, that means we're talking movies. And it's been a little while since we've spoken to Bob, but we are excited to be back at it. And Bob has quite a few movies to talk about. And then we will also talk a little bit about the Oscars, which is on Sunday. Bob, I know we have quite a bit to get to here, so let's get started with Magic Mike, which was one of the first movies that we were going to review, but ended up, having some issues with, coordination. So let's get started with your list of reviews with Magic Mike: The Last Dance, or Magic Mike's Last Dance, I should say.
Yeah, Magic Mike's Last Dance. This is the third entry in the Magic Mike series. He lost, all of his relationships and it seems savings in the pandemic, and now has to start from scratch. He forms this relationship with this rich heiress played by Salma Hayek, and he goes to London where she owns a theater, and he puts together a rather adult entertainment show for her. This was originally supposed to go directly to streaming, my understanding, and it probably should have stayed that way because this isn't a very good movie, not very tantalizing visually, and not very ambitious from a performance or storytelling standpoint, aside from the natural charisma of Channing Tatum and Salma Hayek.
Right. Kind of a surprise to hear you say that, especially given that Steven Soderbergh is back in the director's chair. After, of course, directing the first one, he did not direct the sequel, but here he comes back into the directing chair, and seems odd that we would be talking about a movie that first would be a direct-to-streaming release, but more so one that probably should have stayed there. And then also, as you mentioned in your review there, that maybe just didn't tantalize the senses or have a nice visual style, which Soderbergh's known for, or at least a quick wit script. So it's kind of disappointing to hear you say that. Did you have a final grade here for Magic Mike's Last Dance?
C minus.
Okay. All right. Well, move on to the next film here in your capsule.
All right, this next film is thus far the biggest movie of 2023, and that is the latest MCU released Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. Ant-Man, Paul Rudd, and his daughter, girlfriend, and the girlfriend's parents all get shrunk down into the quantum realm, where they, experience a whole new world of supposedly fun new characters. One really terrible returning character, which I won't reveal here, but it completely ruins the movie. And they also encounter a new villain named Kang the Conqueror, played by Jonathan Majors, who is apparently going to be the next big bad of the MCU, kind of like a Thanos type.
Sure.
But that's down the line here. He doesn't get the best of introductions. Probably a better introduction than Thanos got, but still not a great introduction here in Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania.
It's one of those. I think we've talked about it numerous times. Different occasions, different reasons for it. But I think there's probably been some Marvel fatigue. Obviously, this is, we're getting up into, I don't even know what phase we're in. Probably upwards
phase five,
upwards of probably 40 movies or more now that have a Marvel Cinematic Universe attachment. I think we can, whether you liked all the movies in that initial sort of run, whether you want to call it the Infinity Saga, however you want to, differentiate these phases and or story, threads, I think we can agree that it seemed like they had a lot more focus in the Infinity Saga, telling a story that essentially, I guess you would say, started with Iron Man, the first Iron Man, and ended with Thanos's ultimate demise. And now that they've kind of restarted these newer phases and this newer storyline, it doesn't seem as focused. What do you think ultimately from where we were with Marvel, which seemed like they had a good game plan, to now it doesn't. I don't know if they really do. It seems like they're just throwing something against the wall and hoping it sticks.
Yeah, this franchise has definitely lost its way since Avengers Endgame back in 2019. A lot of new characters that they're introducing aren't catching on, like the Eternals.
Yeah.
Ant-Man, was always a kind of a popular character, but his movies always had kind of a specific flavor to them.
Sure.
And that flavor is missing from this entry. It's just another, kind of relatively smart alecky hero in a, sort of generic new world. Not one as interesting as Wakanda. I'd say it's about as interesting as the new underwater world from the new Black Panther movie, where you can't really fathom how people can live here 24/7 because it looks so dreary.
Right. Yeah, and I think with Ant-Man is and there's these pillar characters I think in the Avengers saga. Obviously Iron Man, Captain America, but I kind of feel like Ant-Man was always a good secondary character to have. And I think there was a pleasant surprise with the Ant-Man movie being solid, more solid than it probably should have been.
Yeah.
The sequel. I think the sequel is obviously that we've seen sort of a deterioration of this franchise of Ant-Man itself. Probably doesn't need its own franchise, but I think they're trying to capitalize on characters that have migrated over from the Robert Downey Jr. led Avengers to where people like, well, I know Paul Rudd, I know Ant-Man from the good Avengers movies. Let's watch another Ant-Man movie. Are you interested in what they have moving forward? I mean, obviously, I know there's still a lot in the pipe right now, the pipeline with the Fantastic Four. The X-Men are supposed to be coming in here in the near future. But from your point of view, does Kang the Conqueror kind of give you that sense that there's a good villain at least to start, and then maybe they can mold it around, much like they did with a good Thanos villain with Josh Brolin's performance there?
They're going to have to step up their game if they want Kang to have the reputation of Thanos. I mean, it can be done. I mean, Thanos, what did Thanos do at first? He just kind of glared and sent minions after them, and that was pretty bad. This guy takes some losses off the bat that makes him kind of hard to take seriously. But so they need to do some improvements there. But I think the character can be salvaged. I think the franchise obviously can be salvaged. I think they just need to, stop basically making the same movie over and over.
Right.
Which is what this has become.
Do you have any excitement moving forward with this, this new phase of franchise where you're not going to see the Iron Mans of the world? You might see less of Thor. You might see less of the Hulk. Definitely probably not Captain America. Are you excited about the event, the Fantastic Four or X-Men, or are those franchises kind of played out even though they haven't been in the Disney realm yet?
I would need to see where they go with Fantastic Four. I guess if John Krasinski's involved, maybe I'm kind of excited.
Yeah.
But otherwise, no, not really.
Okay. What's your final grade here for Ant-Man?
C-, especially because of the returning character that really drags.
I think we lost
down.
Bob there.
I'm sorry? Hello? Craig, I think you're frozen.
Okay, so it looks like we might have lost Bob, or maybe I lost Bob because my internet connection is not so good. And there's Bob again. So we got you back. Good. I didn't know if it was on my end or your end there, but I'm not sure what you heard. The last thing I asked was your final grade here for Ant-Man. What was your final grade?
C minus.
C minus. All right. And what's your next film?
All right. Next film is Cocaine Bear.
Ooh.
This is loosely based on a true story of a bear that got into a stash of unguarded cartel product back in the 80s. The bear didn't last very long because bears aren't meant to have cocaine. Neither are humans, quite frankly.
Sure.
But in this movie, hungry bear plus cocaine equals woodland killing spree.
Yes.
It's basically a horror comedy.
Yeah. And it's based out of my home state here of Tennessee now. I obviously live in Tennessee now, and this incident, the true story, happened in East Tennessee and into the Georgia forest as well, I believe, is where this movie kind of intersects. Obviously, the movie takes a lot of liberties, as you said, with a killing spree and a bear that probably lasted too long on cocaine. So, at the end of the day, though, I'm not saying this is a movie that I want to see or that people should go out and see, but sort of probably in the same vein as like a Snakes on a Plane, where it's just hopefully better than a Sharknado made for TV movie. Is that where we're at here? Where do you come down?
It is better than a Sharknado. Actually, there's a pretty decent, quirky crime comedy.
Okay.
Outside of the bear just is one part of the equation here, but it's a pretty big part.
Right.
But yeah, this is a pretty enjoyable movie, even outside of the bear. But then there's the bear as well.
Well, ultimately, this is probably one of those movies where they're going for gore, probably going for some laughs, whether they be intentional, unintentional. Probably a lot of satire or sarcasm involved here. What was your final reaction here to Cocaine Bear?
I gave this one a B. It's a lot of fun.
Well, it sounds like a good change of pace too. We get sequeled out, I think, a lot of times here in movies, and it's nice to have sort of a palate cleanser, I guess, with something that you've not seen necessarily before. So, very interested. I'll have to check out Cocaine Bear. What's your next film on the list?
Let's see here. Next film is, I got to look this up. Creed 3.
Creed 3.
Yes, I believe it's already the third highest grossing movie of the year after Ant-Man Quantumania and Megan. But this one has Michael B. Jordan returning as Adonis Creed. He skipped out on taking responsibility for something in his past. He left a friend played again by Jonathan Majors to be arrested. Not really in his place, but to be the only one arrested of the two of them for a youthful indiscretion. And now the Jonathan Majors character is back, and he wants the World Heavyweight Championship. He wants, even though he's, hasn't made a career out of boxing, he wants a Rocky-like shot from out of nowhere at the World Heavyweight Boxing Championship. And, the good news is that Michael B. Jordan really steps up as director in place of Ryan Coogler, who has departed the franchise, I suppose. And Jonathan Majors plays a much better villain here than he did in Ant-Man.
Okay. Obviously, you have to probably take some leaps of faith, thinking that a guy not essentially coming off the street to challenge for the World Heavyweight Boxing Championship, but obviously there's an emotional connection between the two that makes the fight more worth people's while, I would imagine. At the end of the day, this is one of those. It's another boxing movie. I think boxing usually translates pretty well to the screen. Obviously, you mentioned Rocky. This is a long-standing franchise, but Raging Bull, of course, a Martin Scorsese masterpiece. $1 Million Baby gets boxing really well. I think they did. Clint Eastwood did great with that. Boxing seems to translate. Does Creed 3 translate? Even though we've seen these characters before, and then of course within this Rocky universe as well.
It translates pretty well. I read somewhere that boxing has been depicted on screen much more than any other sport.
Yeah. It seems like it's just, I don't know if it's easier because, there's, from a technical standpoint, there's still things that you need to throw in there. You need to make things look realistic, fight, punches and how people fall, how people look when they get punched, things like that. But it just seems like it translates. And I think it's a good life lesson as well, with kind of boxing and, fighting against your demons or what, things like that. But does Creed 3 work for you? I mean, is this a worthy, I don't know if it's a finality in the trilogy, but is this trilogy worth our while here? Is this a good movie?
It works pretty well. Still kind of a stretch how this
Mhm.
Jonathan Majors character is able to get pushed so hard so
Sure.
fast. And there's some heavy-handedness in the so to speak in the final act.
Okay.
But otherwise, it's a pretty good movie. Maybe not the best of the Creed or Rocky franchise. I'd even go so far as to say it's the very relatively speaking worst of the Creed franchise. But
Okay.
there were two really good movies that came before it, and this one's a pretty good movie, so it's still worth checking out. I give it a B minus.
Okay. Fantastic. Do you hope they continue on, or should they end it at a
They
trilogy?
should end it
Or
here.
okay,
They should
perfect.
end it here before because he makes a comeback in this movie, um, and I think that if he keeps making comebacks, people are going to get tired of him making comebacks.
Sure. Absolutely. All right. What's next on the docket?
Okay, it's a movie called Operation Fortune, and then there's a subtitle to it that's a French phrase meaning um, go back to go forward or something like that. But this is a really unambitious spy movie starring Jason Statham. It seems like it should be really cool, but it's not. He enlists a Hollywood actor to infiltrate this arms dealer played by Hugh Grant, who has access to a client that can destroy the world. Um, the whole premise was blown wide open last year by Nicolas Cage in that spy movie he did.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
But otherwise, this is not a very funny movie, uh, not a very cool action movie,
Right.
not a lot of fun twists to it. Just not a lot of fun all around. Even though it wants to be, it has kind of a playful mindset, but nothing it's doing is really connecting, and it seems to think that it can be the start of a franchise. Hence
Mm,
the subtitle meaning go forward to go back, but
yeah.
it's not going to kickstart anything here.
Okay. Well, final grade for
C
Operation
minus.
Fortune. Okay. All right. What's next on the docket?
All right, and we have arrived at the movie I saw last night. The reason I wanted to wait till today to do a show this week, and that is Scream 6,
All
the
right.
latest
Yeah.
chapter in my favorite slasher franchise.
Okay. Okay. Great. Well, I have to admit, I kind of tapped out, I think, after the second or third one. So I haven't really kept up with the Scream franchise as it was rebooted. But high expectations here to see what you have to say because I didn't realize you were a big fan of the Scream franchise. So let's get into it. What'd you think?
I thought it was okay. I put it around the same place I put Creed 3, where it's not a great entry, but I still recommend it.
Right.
Uh, in this case, some of the characters from the fifth entry have now moved to New York, which I can very much tell was filmed in Montreal and not New York City. But yeah, they're in New York now, and having to deal with Ghostface and another series of murders. Uh, Twists and turns abound. We have Courtney Cox returning to the franchise. We have Hayden Panettiere returning to the franchise, and yeah, some inventive kills, some nice humor, some nice character work from the returning core four, as they like to be called, from the last movie. and twists and turns until a finale where they have to contend with at least one killer, let's
Okay.
say.
Ultimately, is this a
It's
you liked it? I mean, is this are we screamed out? I mean, can they continue this franchise? Do you want them to continue working on Scream movies?
I absolutely think they can continue this
Okay.
this franchise. I am terrified of the ghost face mask, but I like being terrified of the ghost face mask. And this can go as many times as they think that they can throw together a decent sequel. I like these characters by now, and whoever remains of the core four can can by all means continue on with more sequels to this franchise. They give this entry a B minus,
Okay.
um, and hopefully the next one can step up a little bit, but for now it's fine.
Okay. Well, sometimes old reliable is not too bad in the movie business. It's nice to know that you're going in expecting something, and usually it probably delivers on that expectation. So, well, obviously this weekend is a big weekend in movies. It's the Oscar weekend, as they've over the last few years have changed around the schedule. Usually late February is Oscar season. I think in the pandemic era they went into late March because of extending the voting period and extending the what films would be eligible. Here we kind of get a sweet spot, I guess, in between late February, late March, and March 12th. Here on Sunday is the Oscar voting. Oscar voting is done now officially. Winners will be announced on Sunday. Obviously, there's more than 20 categories. We're not going to go through all those categories, but usually there's what they would call the big six, which are the four acting categories: best director, best picture. Uh, Bob, do you mind if we go through those and maybe give our slate of winners for those categories? And then maybe if you want to, a little wild card category or a lock that you think is just an absolute lock based on what you think?
We can go through category by category, but I'll be honest. It seems like there's one movie that's
Yes,
rather poised to make a sweep
yes,
in
it
every
does.
category. But we can talk about the individual categories if you'd like.
Okay. Well, maybe we can, since I think we're on the same wavelength here. On obviously we didn't talk beforehand. Didn't want to skew our opinions on things, but it seems like we're probably eyeballing the same kind of category sweeps here. I guess what we'll do is I'll run down best picture. Obviously, there are 10 nominees this year. But it does look like Everything Everywhere All at Once has the momentum moving forward for Best Picture. I'm assuming that you're in that boat, even though maybe early in the Oscar season it wasn't quite in there, and maybe the Banshees of Inisherin or the Fablemans were trending a little higher. But right now it seems like Everything Everywhere All at Once is the film to pick.
Yeah, yeah, that's probably going to win Best Picture. I would imagine that it will probably win Best Director, although I could kind of see Steven Spielberg winning Best Director. I could see Spielberg winning Best Director over Daniels more than I could see the movie winning Best Picture.
Sure. Yeah, and I think that goes for me with Best Director. I think it's the Daniel Kwan, Daniel Scheinert, who directed Everything Everywhere All at Once. They seem to again be in that momentum swing. I think Spielberg. It's interesting because he probably just on the gravity that he just orbits around Hollywood, he would probably be a shoe in most years. But I think one of the issues that he's faced here, especially in the last couple of years, um, box office return hasn't been there, and I think that's stunted some of the momentum because I don't think anybody would argue that the Fablemans is another Spielberg movie, and it's people like you said. I think you said in your review of the Fablemans, and we've talked about it before that people in Hollywood love movies about movies and movie making, and this is a movie making movie from one of the all time greats. But I think the box office return, the popularity that's died down, it just probably isn't going to be Spielberg's year to win.
Yeah, I think the problem is that the movie opened too early.
I agree with that because maybe a late December or a mid December, you could have maybe at least had it more fresh in the minds, even if the box office return was still not so good.
Yeah, but this one opened in I think what was it, early November.
Yeah, I think
Um,
early November was
it
the
never really caught on with audiences the way it wanted to.
which is a shame. But again, I think momentum, the way they do Oscar voting and sort of the stages they do it to allow for the momentum to build and hear everything everywhere all at once, I think you and I can agree is probably going to come home with a lot of statues on Oscar Sunday. I will say though, as we'll get into Best Actor first, I think Best Actress is going to be a real interesting battle between Michelle Yeoh and um, Kate Blanchett. I think it's going to be a real battle, but we'll get to that in a second. But Best Actor, finally, we'll have a category where Everything Everywhere All at Once does not win. This seems like a two-horse race right now with Austin Butler for Elvis, Brendan Fraser for The Whale. I know had a lot of early buzz, especially coming out of the film festival circuit. Obviously, Elvis was a summer release from Baz Luhrmann. Didn't really get a lot of great critical response. It did okay. The box office did pretty well. But ultimately, it seemed like it was going to be one of those movies that might fizzle out, but it's kind of stuck the landing, so to speak, in some of these award seasons. Getting nominations for Best Picture, Austin Butler getting a lot of, buzz. I'm going with Austin Butler over Brendan Fraser right now. And I think the biggest reason why is because even though people didn't really respond that highly to um, Elvis, I think they responded to it a little bit better than they did The Whale, where I think most people are saying that these are actors' movies that carried it through. But Elvis got the Best Picture nomination, got more nominations overall compared to The Whale. And I think Oscar voters just, unfortunately for Brendan Fraser, I think he's just going to kind of recess into the ether here and just not really be on people's minds when it comes to Oscar season. At least
Yeah,
not as much.
the Academy loves musical biopics. Rami Malek in Bohemian Rhapsody as Freddie Mercury, Jamie Foxx as Ray Charles.
Sure.
What was it? Renee Zellweger as Judy Garland.
Yeah.
Plenty of other examples, but yeah, that's why I think Austin Butler is going to win. Fraser, The Whale is another movie that I don't think people really supported that much. It was an Aronofsky movie that didn't feature me, so I don't have that much interest in it.
They need the Bob Garver bump,
Yeah, yeah. But no, a lot of people are saying that's probably the worst movie of his career. Is The Whale, even though it got Fraser this Best Actor nomination. I think the movie itself, is going to be forgotten pretty soon. Whereas I think this Elvis movie is going to be seen as pretty much the definitive Elvis movie going forward.
Sure.
Despite its flaws, including Tom Hanks and that awful accent.
Yeah, and I think there's the sentiment would be to vote for Fraser because it's like this career resurgence, and maybe you might say, well, if it wasn't for Fraser, this movie would just be absolutely forgotten after you watch it. But I just think Butler, like you said, the musical biopic, when they're nominated, the people you rattled off winning, I think it's going to be Butler.
Yeah,
Maybe
me too.
even a little bit tighter is Best Actress, and it looks like it's a two-person race here with Michelle Yeoh from Everything Everywhere All at Once and Kate Blanchett for Tar. Tar got a lot of high praise early on in the Oscar season, but the momentum's on Everything Everywhere All at Once right now. I think by a razor thin margin, and I think this could go either way. I think Michelle Yeoh is going to win, but I would not be surprised if Kate Blanchett wins because I know a lot of people, whether you like the movie or not, I know you were a little iffy on it, but you definitely appreciated the Kate Blanchett performance, and I think a lot of people really did. But it just seems like the momentum is not on her side moving forward.
I still think Kate Blanchett is going to win.
Okay.
Even though she does seem to be losing ground with every award show to Michelle Yeoh. And there is a part of me that would like to see it Michelle Yeoh win her first Oscar as opposed to giving yet another statue to Kate Blanchett.
Sure.
But Kate Blanchett is just so good in Tar.
Right. Yeah. I was torn on this one because I it could go either way for me. It really could. I think it's going to be a razor thin margin. I would not be shocked one bit if Kate Blanchett wins, and I don't think anybody would complain if she did. But the momentum is there, and I think, and it's not about the Oscar diversity type of voting. I just think the momentum is on Everything Everywhere All at Once right now. Where when that movie came out, I don't think many people pegged it as this Oscar behemoth that it has become, and I just think that it's really gained a lot of steam. It didn't have a lot of competition because a lot, like, the Fablemans didn't make a lot of money. Avatar wasn't quite Oscar, big time winning Oscar worthy. The Banshees of Inisherin, while a lot of people enjoyed it, it's a little bit smaller in scale and probably not as biting maybe as McDonough's last movie with Three Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri, that just featured a tour de force performance by Frances McDormand. So I feel like it could go either way, but I'm still thinking just based on where things stand right now, as voting has just closed a few days ago. So it's going to be a toss up, but I think it'll be interesting to see who pulls that out.
Another thing that might cost Kate Blanchett, and again, she's still my pick,
Yeah.
is that she has been outspoken about the Oscars and how they make actresses compete against each other,
Mm.
and that may have rubbed some voters the wrong way.
Very much so, possibly. Well, best supporting actor, I think this is probably among the slam dunks of the night, it seems.
It
Ke
is.
Kwan from Everything Everywhere All at Once, another Everything Everywhere All at Once win. But, this is a great story, too. A child actor that has, found the mojo here and got back in, perfect situation. And it seems pretty likely that, he would win. I don't know if there's a solid number two, but I think Kwan right now is the one.
I would have thought Brendan Gleeson for the Banshees of
Yeah,
Inisherin
yeah.
would have been higher in the running for this, but yeah, it seems to be a runaway for.
Yeah, and Kwan's kind of cleaned up on the circuit, the awards circuit leading up to that. So it seems like it's a pretty inevitable case right now. But another toss up maybe is the best actress, best supporting actress category. Maybe the early favorite was Angela Bassett. Jamie Lee Curtis has maybe, closed the gap for Everything Everywhere All at Once. I'm actually picking Jamie Lee Curtis because I'm on this bandwagon that Oscar voters are just going to give. I think Everything Everywhere All at Once has around 11 nominations or so thereabouts.
Yeah.
I think they're going to win 7, 8, 9. I could see them maybe not winning screenplay, but I could also see that winning screenplay as well. Although I wouldn't be shocked if it doesn't, because they, maybe Academy voters are going to spread the wealth a little bit, knowing that, the Daniels are going to be winning Best Director. They'll probably win Best Picture. But I do think Jamie Lee Curtis has kind of closed the gap, and I think, Angela Bassett is a great actress, and this would be a sort of a lifetime achievement type award, but it would also be one for Jamie Lee Curtis. And I think the tiebreaker for me is that Jamie Lee Curtis is in a movie that's nominated for Best Picture among other categories, and Angela Bassett in Black Panther: Wakanda Forever is not. And I think that's going to be maybe the deciding vote for some of those Academy voters that are sort of on the fence on which veteran actress they want to bestow their first trophy on.
Yeah, it's definitely a toss up between those two, and I know there's a case for Blanchett, or not Blanchett, Bassett, because it's a much showier performance,
Yeah.
but at the same time, it's in a movie that was much more poorly received.
Right.
Uh,
And
you know, it's part of
I
that.
guess. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you
It's
off, but I guess a
part of that
third
kind of
person.
fall off.
Go ahead.
Part of that kind of fall off for the MCU that we were talking about earlier.
Sure. Yeah. Well, and I think Carrie Condon too for the Banshees of Inisherin is maybe in that third place. Maybe lurking in the weeds, possibly, where if there's like a split on voters, that can't really decide on Jamie Lee Curtis or Angela Bassett. Maybe Carrie Condon's able to swoop in and maybe steal it by a razor thin margin. But it seems like it's a 2-person race here with Curtis and Bassett. And I guess it just, to me, it really comes down to what movie was received better by the Academy. And it's pretty clear that the Academy giving Everything Everywhere All at Once the most nominations is probably more in line with that. Oh, although, we've seen it before where you've had movies with several nominations that, lose every category. Although I don't think that's going to happen here, but it's possible that maybe the 11 nominations, they only get 3 or 4 wins. Who knows? But it will be interesting to see. Is there a wild card category or a lock? It could be among these 6 categories that we talked about. But is there like a supporting actor?
Yeah.
I'm going to go on it's maybe a little bit more bold, but I think it's a lock. I think Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio will win Best Animated Feature. I do think that, Turning Red we both loved, and I really love Turning Red. And in any other year, that would probably win Best Animated Feature. But I think Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio, which has been cleaning up on the award circuits, probably a near lock for that category.
Yeah, it seems unstoppable at this point. As does Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Yes. Do you think that this is a ceremony that maybe people will watch? I mean, obviously, Avatar
after last year.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. I'm sure it's probably going to be somewhat of a boring ceremony. They're going to try to make it as boring as possible, I would imagine, given what happened last year. Do you find that, in Avatar, do you think people really care if movies like Avatar or Top Gun Maverick are nominated? I mean, yeah, Top Gun Maverick's nominated, Avatar's nominated for Best Picture, but everybody knows that's read up on the Oscars knows it has zero chance of winning. So do you think people really watch it when those movies are nominated for Best Picture?
Oh, maybe they will, just because they'll say, well, at least I've heard of this movie.
Right. That's true. That is true. Well, obviously a lot to digest afterwards, I'm sure. Is there anything, I know this is we're getting into a little bit more busy time here for movies. Do you have anything coming up for next week?
Well, I mean, this coming weekend is going to be the weekend where Scream dominates. So the weekend after that will be Shazam. After that, there's a weekend with a new John Wick movie, which I can't wait to see. And then after that, what is after that? Dungeons and Dragons.
Oh, okay.
And then Super Mario. Yeah, those will be the movies the next 4 weeks.
All right. Well, the spring and summer season is upon us. I think it's official. The bad movie season in the early winter is beyond us now, and we're getting into the big blockbuster season. Bob, as always, it was great talking to you. We will probably get together next week at least, maybe, and talk Oscar reaction, maybe, or whatever you prefer.
Yeah, we'll see with Shazam coming up, maybe as early as next Friday.
Okay, sounds great. As always, Bob, thanks for your time. We'll talk to you later.
Thank you very much. This is the highlight of my...
Hi, I'm Jennifer Mooney. Welcome to what is our new Hope Interrupted podcast based on the work from our book, Hope Interrupted, that I co-authored with my good friend Byron McCauley.
Hey, Jennifer, I'm looking forward to this podcast as much as I was looking forward to writing this book with you. We hope to interview some high-impact folks as well as have a little fun.
We're going to cover stories of hope. To learn more about our podcast and our book, please visit www.hopeinterrupted.com.